Hi everybody, this is Ellen. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make the Happy Sundae. I think it's super cute with the nice little cherry on top and the chocolate topping, ice cream and the bowl. Turns out awesome and adorable, of course, so we'll make this little guy. For bands, the cherry itself is 28 bands, the topping color is 40 bands, the ice cream is 116 bands, and then the bowl is 170 bands. So the bowl is definitely the one that takes the most, but it's got to have something to sit in for the cute little sundae, so we'll make this guy. And then of course you'll need the beads for the beads or wrapped bands for the eyes, and then the cheeks and the mouth, whatever color you want those to be. But I'll get started and I'll tell you how to make the either the wrapped eye bands or the beaded eye bands, the cheeks, and then we make the cherry first before we get into the sundae. So this might be a little bit longer tutorial, sorry about that, but a couple extra steps with making the cherry separate and doing some of this stuff up here. So, but hopefully it'll go quickly for you. This guy over here. So first the eyes and the cheeks. If you're going to make a beaded eye band, you're going to want something that you can thread through the beads with the bands, especially if you use the smaller beads. I use a piece of craft wire, but you can use string, thread, floss, anything that you can get into a V shape. Take two cut bands the color of your ice cream, put them in the center, close it up, and then thread them through your bead and bring them down to the center. That would be a beaded eye band, so you would need two of those if you wanted to do the beads for the eyes. And then if you want to use wrapped bands, just one band the color of your eye on your hook, wrap it around once into a figure 8, grab both bands, wrap it around again, and then pull through two bands the color of your ice cream, like that. So you need two of those if you're going to use these for your eyes. And then if the cheeks are made the same way as the eyes, whatever color you want the cheek to be, on the hook, wrap it around once into that figure 8, grab both bands, wrap them around again, and then once more pull through two bands the color of your ice cream. We're going girly this time, so you want two cheeks as well. So those would be the eyes and the cheeks, and then the mouth band is just one extra band. So to make the cherry, this wants to hang out upside down. We'll need our loom, and whatever color you want your cherry to be, or topping to be here. What we're going to do is take two bands and drop them around the center on 6 pins. So two bands, just drop them all the way around. Like that. Now we're going to take two bands, and from the center pin we're going to go out to the 6 pins around. In the starburst pattern. Then the center will be two bands. We're just going to wrap it around one time. So, well, or twice, however you look at it. So around the pin and wrap it around once. So like that. Then you're going to go in through the cap band we just put on, or the band we just wrapped around the pin. Grab the top two bands, pull them up through, and loom them back towards themselves. And you do that all the way around. I'm sorry if my voice starts going hoarse here. It's super dry in here for some reason. So like that. Then we're going to puff the bands that we have on the pins. So all you're going to do is grab these bands that we dropped, take your hook and go in through the bands that are on the pin, grab the ones you dropped, pull them up, put both ends on your hook, and pull off what's on the pin, and then what's on your hook goes back onto that pin. And we'll do that all the way around for all 6 pins. Not sure why I'm all into making the cold treats, since we are actually in winter now, so you'd think I'd be wanting to make warm treats, but I guess it's just a kick I'm on. Just like making junk foods in general, since I haven't made a healthy one for a little while. I'll get back there. I still have a few or a lot more requests to do. So once you have this, we're actually ready to close this up. I'm going to use my Ramble Loom hook to do it. It's not horrible, but it definitely ends up being a lot of bands on your hook. But take my hook, I'm going to go in through the bands on the pin and take them off and do that all the way around the circle here. So you kind of have this on your hook now. And I kind of flatten it out a little bit as best I can. Then I'm going to take 2 bands, pull them through what's on my hook. So sorry, this is actually going to make 29 for the cherry. And I'm going to kind of squish it down, get it centered, and then do a slip knot by pulling the 2 bands farthest or near my hook end through the other ones. So pull those, make that slip knot, and I'm going to take and hide what's the tails here in my cherry. So you can kind of run it around where we just went with the bands to close it, or just pull it into the inside. But we just want a kind of a nice little roundish shape. And then what we want to do is make the stem. I'm making mine red, although I can make it different colors too. And what we want is actually to have just a little slip knot on the end, so it kind of keeps it together more as a stem. I'm going to make it on my hook. And how I'm going to do that is I lay it underneath my hook. I'm going to take my thumb, slide it up through the band from the bottom, and if I kind of start folding it over, I can catch that other band with the tip of my thumb. Then I want to slide that other band through until I have that shape on my hook. Once I'm there, I'm going to pull my hook through, but I'm going to snag that first band and make it come off my hook. Do it again, do it again. Like that. Take the first band, slide it through the second band, and that makes a knot. There are other ways to make the slip knots, but I think this is one of the easier ways. Just quick on your hook. So like that. Then I'm going to take my cherry, and the end that did not have, where I didn't tie it off, so here's where the side I tied off, I'm going to go to the opposite end. I'm going to snag like 2 bands on one side, come straight across, and snag 2 bands across from the other side. These are the bands that went around from our cap band in the beginning. So once you have that, you take your band with a slip knot on it, hook the end that doesn't have the knot, pull that through, and put both ends on the hook, I usually snag it on the inside of the knot just so I don't pull the knot out. Then I'll do another slip knot through. And then pull tight. So that ends up being my cherry stem. So, cute, not super hard I hope. Slip knot might catch up, but there are, I think I've seen tutorials of people making them, but hopefully you can follow my hook one, it's not too bad. Otherwise, like I said, you could just leave it the other way too. So we're going to put this aside for now and then start working on the top of the sundae, and we'll connect the cherry as we go. Put my bands away. So we're going to start first with our topping color. I'm going to use burgundy. This was just brown, or I guess the cocoa bands from Wonder Loom, or cocoa bands from Rainbow Loom, but there are brown ones from Wonder Loom, which are about the same color as well, which are sold at Walmart, so you can check those out. Otherwise, think in terms of like caramel topping, strawberry topping, what else to put to people? Apricot topping, I think I've seen. There's tons of different topping colors you can use besides brown if you don't have any, so keep that in mind. Really wants to turn over. Alright, so what we're going to do first is you're going to take 6 bands, the color of your topping, and we're going to lay them across from each other on 4 pins. So 6 bands right here, and then on the kind of making a little square. So there's 6 more. And here's 6. Here's 6. Just making sure I got them all. You can add them in later, but it's just easier if they're all there, which we're good. So 6 bands on these 4 pins, and now what we're going to do is from the center pin, we're going to go out to these 4 pins with 2 bands the color of your topping. So like that. And then again, 2 bands, we're going to put them in the center here. I'm only going to actually wrap these around one time again. So on, and then wrapped. So we're going to go in through our cap band that we just put on, grab the top 2 bands, and loom them back towards themselves. And do that all the way around the 4 pins. Like that. Now you want to get your cherry, and on the opposite end from the top, I'm going to take my hook and go underneath my closing band. Try not to snag my other cherry bands or go up through the middle of any of those, which is easier said than done sometimes. There's one side, and just take it straight across and come up the other side. Then 2 bands the color of your topping. Pull those through the bottom of the cherry. You want to keep both ends on your hook. Like that. So now we're going to do, so we're going to attach the cherry across from each other on these pins. So how we're going to do that is once it's on the hook like this, I'm going to lift up the 4 bands that we had looped over onto the end of my hook. I'm going to slide down those first 2 bands, and then I'm going to put back the 4 bands I picked up back onto the pin where they belong. It gets a little tricky because the cherry is in the way. It should look like that now. So then you'll take your band that's still on your hook, come over to the other side, again pick up those 4 bands, and then I just grab it and pull that other band that goes through the cherry, slide it over, and then replace the bands back onto the pin. And it should be centered now, kind of facing one of these one way over here. So like that. So now what we need to do is we're going to take all 6 of the bands that we dropped, and we're just going to flip them over the top of the pin. It's going to be kind of messy for a little bit until we get rid of those, but it's not too long. You just don't want any of them to be dropped or still be over the top of the pin like that. They all need to be up and kind of tucked in. So now we are going to do a transition row. It's the only one, so don't hate me too much. Transition row is where we take the color that we were using and we're going to switch to a new color without having a kind of messy, ugly result. So to make them, you can make them on your fingers, just putting one band on top of the other. I kind of do just kind of half and half, or if I grab the top one through the bottom and the bottom one through the top, like if I pull tight it would be a knot, but if I fold them I get a half and half band. Basically you're just folding. If you take a band and kind of fold it around one end of a band, and you grab and fold the other one, you're making a transition band. You can make these on the loom as well, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, but once you've made them, you're going to put them on the loom so that the topping by chocolate is towards the center, and the next color, which is the ice cream, is towards the outside. So you can make them on your loom as well, like I said. Doesn't matter which color you put down first, but just kind of lay them up next to each other. So then you go in through whatever band is on top, grab the bottom band. I'm going to hold on to this one when I do that. Grab the bottom one, pull it up and loop it back towards itself. And there's a little spot right here. You're going to stick your hook in, grab that other band, and pull it back towards itself. So now we just made a half and half band as well that way. You want to put these on the loom the same way as I do because we do some increasing, so make sure that you're kind of following the same around pattern that I do. So you can, if you have trouble with increasing, you can do what I do, I guess. So again, put this on with the topping color towards the inside and the ice cream color towards the outside. So a couple more here. Like that. So now what you're going to do is flip the bottom 4 bands on all 4 pins. So that should just be all 4 topping colors. Go ahead and flip those over the top. And do that on the other side. Go ahead and push your bands down. So now what we're going to do is expand. And if you follow the same way that I did for laying the bands, and you should be able to do exactly as I do. We just don't want to have any bands that are crossed. For this pin up here, we can just pick up the top transition band and see how nothing is crossed. This band that it's on my hook is actually coming from over here. And then we're just going to pull that up to that pin up there. For these ones though, if we were to pick up the top band, it's actually coming from this pin down here, And if we pulled it up here, then it would cross over this band right here. So what we're going to do is pick up all 4 of the bands, or 2 transition bands, pick them up and bring them up a pin, then grab the top 2 bands and bring them back down to the pin they were on. So there's no crossing under there. We have to do the same thing with these other 2 pins as well. Pick up all 4 bands, bring them down, grab the top 2 bands or top transition band, and pull it back up. The transition bands don't have to be perfect. If you want to try and make it a little bit more congruent in the change color, you would want the ice cream color to be around as much as the outside of the pin as possible, but it's not a huge deal because I didn't notice really anywhere where it popped through where I was like, oh, that looks bad, so. And just pick up that top one and bring it back. So like that. Push your bands down. Now we're going to do another row around, and now we're going to go to the ice cream color. Two bands all the way around. Like that. So now you flip over the bottom bands. It should just be a transition band. Looks like 2 bands all the way around to go over the top. Push those down. So now we're going to do another expansion on the 4 pins on the ends. So again, this pin right here, we can just pick up the top 2 bands and pull them up to the pin above. But the other ones, we'll have to pick up all 4 bands that are on the pin, bring them up or down a pin, and then grab the top 2 bands and bring them back to where they were. And the same thing down here, just that we're going down. All 4 bands down, top 2, back. Same thing here. Like that. So now what we want to do is take, and you want to pull up all of these, the topping bands. Just pull them up, make sure that there aren't any left below. Kind of have to dig underneath and make sure they're all pulled up. And once you have those, you should have 6 on each one of these corners here. So once we have those, we're going to start stretching them around for the topping. So how we're going to start is this group up here. You're going to grab like the top 2 bands or any 2 bands, doesn't really matter a whole lot. And you're going to take them and stretch them down to this pin right in front of the other one. So right from this pin down to here. That'll kind of be our starting point. So what we're going to do is go down to this next group of 6 bands right here. Grab 2 bands from that section and pull them down to the next pin down. Grab 2 more bands from that same section, pull them across here. Actually, sorry, pull them to here. Next 2 bands, they'll come across to the last spot. So this corner section, the 6 bands went to the pin here, the second pin, the first pin here, and this other pin. And we're going to kind of go around the circle now. So here's our next group of 6. You'll grab 2 bands from that section, pull them down to the next pin up, grab the next 2 bands, pull them over, and then the last 2 bands are going to come up to the pin above. And we'll work on this other set of 6 right here. You grab 2 bands, pull them up to the next pin in line, grab 2 more bands from that same section, pull them up to the corner, then grab the last 2 bands from that section and pull them to the far corner. And then for this section right here, you should still have 4 left. So grab 2 bands, pull them to the next pin that's empty, and then your last 2 bands, if I can snag just those, will come to the last empty pin. So we just kind of went around, pulling out the 2 bands all the way around. Hopefully that made sense. So now what we're going to do is this ice cream color still. You're going to take the 2 topping bands off of this corner pin and hold them. Take your 2 ice cream bands, stretch them across the bottom, put that topping band back onto that pin, and then what you'll do is you'll take your hook or your fingers and the topping bands that are on this right pin here, you're going to take them and flip them off so they're in the center of that ice cream band. Then once you've done that, grab 2 more bands, next space up, again, flip the topping bands over, and we're going to keep repeating that all the way around to the end. So 2 more bands, flip the topping over, 2 more bands, flip the topping over, just keep going. Some of them seem pretty loose and some seem really tight. It's just the way they're stretched on the loom, but it'll be fine when we're done. Just keep going around. And last one. So now if you look all the way around your loom, every band that is around the outside row should have one of the topping bands that comes in the center. I mean, some of them will be super loose and kind of be right in the center. Other ones will be pulled tight so they look like they're kind of hidden. But just make sure that you have all those on. And then what we're going to do is flip over the bottom bands that we need to. So on some of them it would be 2 up where we expanded, and the middle ones will be 4. And then again 2 on the end. Same thing, 2 on the ends, 4 in the middle, and 2 on the end again. So like that. And go ahead and push your bands down. Our next row is going to be our eye row. So you want your eyes ready. The 2 bands all the way around, except for we're going to put our eyes right here. So I'm going to start down here, 2 bands, another 2, and then eyes. Like that, and then 2 bands all the way around the rest of it. Like that, and flip the bottom 4 all the way around. Like that. Push your bands down. Next is our cheek row. So you want your cheek bands. And again, it's the same thing. 2 bands in the first 2 spots, and then our cheeks will go right where the eyes are. And then 2 bands around the rest. I'm sorry if my fingers are now kind of, I have glue on them, because my camera died in the middle of filming, so while I was waiting for it to recharge, I went and did some gluing on some things, and I just now remembered that I probably had glue on my fingers, so they aren't dirty. They just, well, I guess they are dirty, but they're covered in glue, not something horrible, so. Another project that I hope to share with you guys. Don't worry, I'm not giving up Rainbow Loom. I'm still totally down. Like that. Again, flip the bottom 4. Yeah, I'm not sure when my camera died because it was plugged in and said it was charging, but apparently it wasn't while I was filming, and then it just kind of said, nope, you're done. So I'm going to pull this up, loosen it up a little bit. I'm just going to grab the cap band in the center with my hook. I'm not going to pull on the cherry itself because you don't want to get that, break it off, I guess, so. That. Push your bands down. So then we're going to put the mouth on, whatever color you want for the mouth, on the hook. Wrap it around once into that figure 8. And then between the cheeks here, there's the 4 bands on the pin. You're going to hook those, pull them off, slide down the band on your hook, and then put the bands back onto the pin that you just took off. That. So I'm going to do another row all the way around with 2 bands, the color of your ice cream still. I'm hoping I have enough juice left to film what I have left to film too, because I was kind of impatient and didn't wait for it to fully charge. So. like that. And then again, flip the bottom 4 all the way around. That. Push your bands down. So now we're going to start getting into the bowl color, or the bowl itself. So whatever color you're going to make your bowl, I'm going to make mine white. I'm hoping it doesn't look weird. It's very hard to figure out what color to make a bowl. I don't know why. For me it was. It's weird. What we're going to do is puff all of the bands that are on the outside with your bowl color, so we have a nice transition. And how we do that is it's just like we did kind of with the cherry, only we have to kind of hold the bands to the side instead of being on the pin. So stick your hook in through the bands that are on your pin, hook 2 bands the color of your bowl, pull them up, put both of them on the hook, pull the bands off the pin, and then what's on your hook goes back onto that same pin. And push them way down. And you're going to do that for every pin around. In through the bands, hook the 2 bands for your bowl, both on the hook, pull off the bands, and replace. You want the bowl color to match your ice cream in a way, kind of. You don't want it to be like weird color combinations necessarily, but then at the same time, if it's just a bowl, it doesn't have to be like totally right on. So I was trying to think of the bowls we have in our house, and they are all like white or white with some kind of trim on them. So that wasn't really helpful. It's like the one thing in the house that the hubby got to choose, because I'm a colorful person and I probably would have had rainbow plates. I know it's weird, but I just like fun things. My husband is definitely, I mean, he likes fun things too. He likes me alright, so I hope. But he's more, likes everything the same colors. If he has a set of something, then it's like, you know, he wants them all to be the same. Like I might have mentioned this before, but like our bathroom towels, they're rainbow colored. Every color of the rainbow I could think of. I found an awesome set that had like tons of different shades. And so I got those, much to his dismay, because he would have much preferred to have like all black towels or all white towels. And I told him in his next life that when he meets somebody that he should just like check in their closet first to see what their towels look like and make sure they're not rainbow colored, because then he can maybe have his kind of boring towels and I can still have my rainbow towels. So alright, so I have it all puffed all the way around. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. I don't know what I was talking about. I think I lost track. So what we're going to do is create the lip of the bowl around the outside. How we're going to do that is by taking 2 bands and we're going to cross them all the way around. So 2 bands crossed. And you're going to do that all the way around our sundae. Oh, bowl color. Wow, I really got off on that one. Yeah, so bowl color. We have mostly white with trim stuff, and so that wasn't very helpful. I know we have some soup bowls that are blue, and that's where this came up. I was like green. I don't know if I want green. Really, it's all personal preference. So I'm going to choose boring white which will hopefully look fabulous against the pink. Alright, so then push your bands down. So now we still have the two, or that'd be the 4 bands from the puffing. Then we have the 4 bands from our X row or crossed row that we just put on. So now what we want to do is take 2 bands and go all the way around right on top of what we have for the X rows, or the crossed rows. There's a lot of bands on the pin, but hopefully won't be too bad. I gotta tell you, it's kind of funny tonight. My son he came up to me and he's like, "I need to go shopping." I'm like, "For what?" And he's like, "Some new shirts and some cologne," and my son's 13, by the way, and things like that. And I was like, "Alright, well, I guess we can go this weekend and see what we can pick up for you." So we have the row all the way around. So now what we're going to do is we want to flip the middle 4 bands over the top 4. So middle 4 over the top 4. Sometimes, like, if I look, I can see here's the top middle, so I can put those over, and then here's the bottom middle, put those over. Just kind of separate them out in my head. But we won't be touching the puffing bands we put on, and then the top 4 that we just put on, we want to leave those 2. But usually, and then after that, I was like, okay, well, I guess, we can pick those things up this weekend. And then he's like, okay, can you cut my hair tomorrow too? And I was like, well, I suppose usually a little more warning is good, just to kind of get the other kids situated so they're not at the door trying to get in while I'm cutting hair or trying to play in the hair, which is even worse. And then he's like, "Do you read my Facebook messages?" I'm like, no, I don't. Because I have required my children that I have access to their passwords, so that if I feel that they're doing something dangerous or inappropriate, I have access to make sure what it is. And so far, my son's been I haven't had any concerns until he's like, "Do you read my messages?" And I was like, no, I don't, but do I need to? He's like, no. I'm like, well, you kind of hung yourself out there, so now you kind of got to give me an idea of what your message is about, otherwise I will have to go look, because that's kind of odd to come out of the blue with that. He's like, well, I like someone and I was talking to my friend about it. I'm like, oh, it's starting. I'm afraid. So push your bands down. Then we're going to do another row all the way around with 2 bands, same bowl color, right on top. So then our whole conversation that we had kind of made sense to me. The wanting some new clothes, which he doesn't usually ask for, wanting some cologne, wanting the haircut. I'm not sure how to feel. My baby's growing up. It's petrifying, but at the same time it's kind of neat. And don't scare your parents, kids, please. I know a lot of kids watch my videos. Don't scare them. So all the way around, and then again we're going to flip the middle 4. Should be a little easier to find because you kind of have that little band that wraps around them in there. So now my husband and I will have to come up with some hard set rules on dating and expectations of curfews and things like that if we get to that point. Oh, can I wait like another 20 years? Maybe I'll be lucky and my daughter, who is my youngest, will never date while in high school. I don't have to worry about it. I mean, I can hope, but somehow I doubt that will happen, or that she'll want to date. I guess we'll see if she's going to date. And at 13, there aren't really going to be dates per se. Maybe I'm old. I didn't date till I was 16, so. And that was like chaperone movies. Like, seriously, with parents sitting in the back of the theater. It was awesome. But I'm thankful for it now, actually, so. So once you have that row all flipped, you still have the 4 bottom puffing bands and then the 4 bands on top from that row we just flipped over. And now what we want to do is move bands around so that we have a nice transition. So what we're going to do is go in through the top 4 bands, grab the bottom 4, which are the puffing bands from way back, pull those up through the middle of the bands on the pin, slide the bands off the pin that are on there, and then take the puffing bands that we pulled up and put those back on the pin. And you're going to do that all the way around. It's amazing how much I disliked as a child some of the rules that I had, or teenager. You know, not out after a certain time, and calling when I was going to be late, or calling to let my mom know where I was, or having to give phone numbers out of where I was so that I could randomly call to make sure I was there. It's like I had all these rules, and I know that I so disliked them and thought it was, you know, I felt like none of the other kids that I hung out with had any of those rules, and man, it was tough. But like I said, I'm actually thankful for it now, because I'm sure that without some of the supervision that I had as a child, I would have probably gotten into trouble, because it's very easy to do, especially nowadays, it seems. And the other side. So parents, wish me luck. Kids, take it easy on me. That's my hope. That. So all the way around, you should just have the puffing bands left on the pin now. Just going to loosen this up. Push your bands down. So we're going to do a row around with 2 bands all the way around. Like that. Then flip the bottom 4 all the way around. push your bands down. And we'll do another row all the way around with 2 bands. Like that, and then again flip the bottom 4. So I have to say too, somebody asked me why, or more than one somebody asked me why I have the same spiel at the end of my tutorials about my Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, and asking to subscribe, and I know it's sometimes I could probably sound a little robotic when I say it, at least that part. The other part, especially when I'm thinking, is definitely genuine, but so last row all the way around with 2 bands. But I always have to remember that not everybody is a die-hard follower of all of my tutorials and of anything that I put out on my channel, so they might not know where they can show me things, or like the eyes and the cheeks, how to make those. You know, if it's their first time they're watching one of my tutorials, they might not know how to make them, so I show how to make those in every tutorial. I'm sure some people, or a lot of people who are used to my designs, probably fast forward through that part. But I just have to remember that not everybody's watched everything that I've done, so that's why I do that repeating part, I guess. So like that, flip the bottom 4. I guess it's at the end, so if you really don't want to watch it, then you can just turn it off before that. Like that. So I'm going to push my bands down and kind of unstick them from behind these pins so they don't get caught when we're taking it off. And I am going to use the latch hook to close, but you can make a long threading band, which is just slip knotted bands tied together into a long string that you thread through all of the bands. Then when you take it off, they're kind of spread out on the bands. Then you can tie that off like I do, or you can use the latch hook like I'm going to, or a very long crochet hook. You can use that as well. And since these are just 2 bands and there's no double banding, you should be fine with no snapping with the tension. I'm going to start in the back and just start taking the bands off of the pins. Feels like a little bit of a stretch on the last one. And come around to the front. Type all of them on my pin. All of them on my hook, not my pin. I'm going to take 2 bands and pull them through the center. Get both ends on my hook. And then before I close, I'm going to try and kind of spread this back out so it has a flatter appearance, or so it's flatter on the bottom. Go ahead and start that slip knot. Kind of get the band stretched out. And go ahead and pull tight. And then we'll hide our tail. Just stick your hook up through somewhere. Come up and grab the tail. Pull it inside. I've snagged like 5 bands. If your bottom's a little bumpy, it's just from closing it. If you grab these little kind of bumps where it seems like they're tighter and just pull those out, it should help make the bottom of the bowl flatter. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry. So like that. So, happy Sunday. Awesome. Fix your mouth. You're looking a little surly. Here, better. So your top up here, it should be fairly, I guess, normal looking to you as far as the topping, fudge, chocolate, whatever you decided to use, coming down. You can get your hook in there and kind of pull them around if you need to, but it should look something like that, and if you followed what I did, then you'll be fine. And you still have your cherry on top. Awesome! I think they look pretty tasty. Let me give you a stretch. There. Delicious. Alright. So, repeating my spiel. If you make any of these cutie pies, I would love to see them on my Instagram, which is at Crafting Fantastic. You can tag me in the pictures or DM them to me if you're private. I check out my messages, so I'll get there as soon as I can, so don't expect an answer right away, but I do answer everything, so you can share them with me on there or on my Facebook page, which is feelinspiffy or Crafting Fantastic. They both should find me, otherwise there's a link underneath the video. And then, of course, subscribing to my channel would be fantastic, so you know when I come out with more of the happy foods or any of my designs tutorials that I do in the future. And then I just want to, of course, say thank you for everything, for your support, for your inspiration, for your tolerance of my blabber sometimes during tutorials, because I know that I do. But it means a lot to me, and you guys are awesome. And I'm super excited to be where I am. I can't believe it most of the time, and it's very odd and weird, but I definitely appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoy what I'm doing still, and that you'll continue to enjoy it. But thank you very much for watching, and I will have more for you soon.